when you're playing an instrument, particularly on stage or something, there's no way that you can do a recording and then scrunch in and find this tiny little button and then drag the loop up into your here. It just doesn't work. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to talk today about Ableton stock looper versus a device that I created called the clip slot looper. And really what this video is about is looping in Ableton, and I'm going to go over the differences between the two different ways to do it. And we're going to talk about guitar looping, but this could be for any instrument. So the first thing we need to talk about, if you're not familiar with Ableton, is the global quantization. And what that is whenever you're doing something, if you're recording what's called a clip in Ableton, it needs to be quantized to the beat of the project. So this project's at 120 beats per minute, and those are going to move by, if we're in 4/4 time, those are going to move by in bars of 4, and we want to make sure that when we're recording, we're stopping and ending on at the beginning of measures and the end of measures. So global quantization is what allows that to happen in Ableton. So for this example today, I normally leave it set to 4 bars, but I'm going to set it to 2 bars today just so we can get through this more quickly, the examples. And to help visualize what's happening, I've also got a patch here, which is a clock. I'll just go ahead and start up Ableton so you can see it. So you can see we're counting the bars, and this is following the global quantization, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So because we have our global quantization set to 2 bars, that's going to be our loop length. And we could set it to 4 bars, and you can see it goes more slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So when we're looping, we just before we get into the loop, we just want to have a general sense of how long it's going to be. And there's a lot of ways that you can determine that. That's a personal thing with every creative project. But again, for today's example, I'm just going to set it on 2 bars. Let's talk about the stock looper first that comes with Ableton. So right now, I've got this set to record 2 bars, and the looper has a nice feature, which is you can set it to, if it's on this setting, it means when it gets to the end of 2 bars, it's going to stop recording. And if you set it to this setting here, it means that you're going to overdub. So you can keep overdubbing onto a loop, which is kind of cool. So if we hit record, you can see where the global quantization is up here with the clock. Notice that started when we reached the top of the clock. Let me show you that again. So if I clear this loop, so just notice when I hit record, and when it gets to the top, boom, it's recording. And that's our 2 bars. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if there were music in that, it would be playing that back for us. So let's stop for a second. So we've got a 2-bar loop recorded, and here's the thing that I actually do not like about the stock looper. So up here in underneath the tracks, we have what are called clip slots in Ableton, and each one of these can hold a loop of any length. Now, you would think that if you could hit record and tell Ableton, maybe with the global quantization, you could just tell Ableton, I want this to record 2 bars for me, and then I can just, hit record and then play my instrument, and it will do that. But unfortunately, Ableton doesn't work that way, so you have to use this stock looper or the clip slot looper, which I'm going to get to. So with the stock looper, so I've recorded this 2-bar loop, and then what I have to do is I have to drag it up into here, and now it's saved. And now what I can do is I can clear this, and I can record another 2-bar loop. Sorry, we gotta Let's start that over. So you can see again, it's going to wait till this clock is telling us where we are in the global quantization. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's our second 2-bar loop. And if I like that, then I can, and I want to keep it, then I can drag this up, and either I can put it in a new track or I can put it in this track. So I might have 2 different loops that I want to switch between, or that I like, or that I'm saving. So in this way, you can go in and you can record one loop after another, and then if you like what you're hearing, you can drag them up and save them up here. And it's all right, but I had an experience with a little iOS app called Loopy that showed me how things could really be a lot better than this. So let's jump over to this second track, and what I've got on here is this device called the clip slot looper. So this is just a device that you can, there's an audio and a MIDI version. The audio goes on audio tracks, the MIDI goes on MIDI tracks, and you just drag it on. It's simple. And what this allows you to do is you can set your loop length, and then instead of having to record in a looper and then drag it up here, it just turns these slots into loopers automatically. So when I hit record, it's going to go ahead and record the 2-bar loop, and then it just punches out, and then there's the loop. So it's not a process where you're recording in a device down here and then dragging it up here and then you're done. It's just much simpler in that all you have to do is hit record and then play your instrument, and then it's done. So hopefully that's clear, the difference between the two. The stock looper in Ableton was not enough for me. I needed something that was more dynamic, and when you're playing an instrument, particularly on stage or something, there's no way that you can do a recording and then scrunch in and find this tiny little button and then drag the loop up into your here. It just doesn't work. And what's really powerful about this clip slot looper is that when you combine it with a MIDI interface like the APC 40, which I'll just put up a picture of that so you can see it, then you can trigger, you don't even have to trigger these slots with your mouse. You can do them with a button. So at that point, you're really getting away from the computer screen. Having a clock like this actually helps you because you don't have to be up close. And you can just focus on playing your instrument and doing the loop. So the other thing that comes up is if you want to, well, there's a couple things. So one thing that's cool is if I have the clip slot looper on a bunch of different tracks, Ableton has this thing called key mapping. So if I go into the key mapping mode and I come down here to the clip slot looper, I can map the 2-bar, the 4-bar, the 8-bar. I'm just mapping that using the 2 key, the 4 key, and the 8 key on my keyboard. And then I can go over here and I can do the same thing on this track. And then I can go to this track and I can do the same thing. And then when I get out of key mode, what that does is it means I can now I can switch by hitting these keys, and it doesn't matter if I have loopers set on every track, they're all going to switch no matter, because they all have the same keyboard shortcut. So if you were building out like a live performance setup, you could have, for example, a little number pad and have all of your loop settings on the number pad so you can change on the fly without, it's like, okay, now I want an 8-bar loop, now I want a 2-bar loop, and that's going to propagate across your entire recording session, and it just makes it easy and powerful. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is if you need to redo or undo a loop. That's another critical part of looping. So if you're playing your instrument and you get into the loop and you're like, nope, and you need to restart, then you got to be able to do that. Or if you finish the loop and you're not happy with it, you need to easily be able to re-record it. So the system that I devised, I like to be able to do that with a foot pedal because I play guitar, bass, piano, and those things are taking two hands, and I want to be able to control things with my feet. So let's just talk, let me show you what it looks like what I'm talking about. So if I hit record, boom, it starts recording. I screw up my loop, I hit a button, and I'm restarted. Here comes start recording again. And this time we're getting through the whole loop. And then we say, oh no, I didn't like it, hit the button. And then what Ableton does, it waits for, in global quantization, it's waiting for us to get to the beginning again, as you see there. So what I've done, the clip slot looper, because it turns these into loopers, it then allows you to do this thing where you can instantly restart or redo a loop recording. And that's just not possible with the stock looper. Although I guess you could put one stock looper on each track, and then you could key map some of these functions in the stock looper. And then you could have, on each track, you could have one instance of the stock looper. So right here you would have 4 loop options. But your control is very limited, and you wouldn't be able to use like the APC40 MIDI controller, and whereas in a live setting you might be able to get, like with 4 tracks, you might be able to get 4 loops going at the same time. With the clip slot looper, all of these are available loop slots, so you have 32 loop slots across 4 tracks. You could have more than that, but it's just, for me, it's a much more dynamic way of using Ableton to do looping. So that's all I'm going to cover in this video. Another video that I'm going to do is setting up a loop template. So I'll just talk about that briefly. Let me get rid of this. So we'd set one track as a monitor for our instrument, and then we'd use these additional tracks to catch loops. Again, I'll go into more detail in the next video about that. So thanks for watching.